Hi, Kenyan Christians. The most important thing for the church to do politically is to be the church. I love Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. He dreams of a place where little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls and work together as sisters and brothers. Where on planet Earth should we expect King's dream to truly take hold in reality? The prophet Isaiah, early in his book, tells of a day when God will judge between the nations and will settle disputes for many people. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. Isaiah 2:4. When do you think this day will come? The local church is where the nations should discover a just and lasting peace, where King's dream should take hold in reality, where the nations will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. The local church should be an ideal political community. What would constitute an ideal political society? The nations of this world try to build a righteous society through a combination of external laws and the sword. Ancient Israel, who even had divinely inspired laws, perfect laws, taught us that this does not work. Friends, stop and think. Imagine you got the perfect president and perfect parliament and perfect set of Supreme Court justices and perfect county governments in place, all of whom conspired to pass perfect laws. What would you get? You'd get, in a sense, a redo of Exodus to Deuteronomy. Okay, Israel, here's the perfect law. And how well did Israel do? How just were they? Sacrificing their children to idols, taking bribes, exploiting the weak and poor. So what are the ingredients of an ideal political society? I can think of three things: a right ruler and rules, right desires, and right standing. The rule of the ruler will line up with the desires of the ruled, and the ruled will all have a right standing in the community. They justly, not unjustly, belong. First, there is the promise of the right ruler. I will make a covenant, says God. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Jeremiah 31:33. Second, the desires of the people align with the rule of the ruler. Verse 33, I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts. And third, they have a right standing. They justly belong. Verse 34, for I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. And notice how idyllic this community is. No longer shall each teach his neighbor to know the Lord, the ruler, because all know him. There is an equality of political access and opportunity. It's like a democracy of kings. Think with me about this third category for a moment: right standing. By what justification are you a member of this new covenant society? Answer: forgiveness. Now, admittedly, that may seem like a strange foundation for a political community. Typically, we grant someone political membership or status either through birth or merit. To be considered an upstanding adult citizen, then, you must be born into a nation, or you must act righteously in accordance with the law. Yet, admission to this new covenant community, strangely, begins with the confession that you were born into sin and that you have not acted righteously. Instead, you stand in need of forgiveness. That's a strange foundation for a political community, isn't it? All strife, all factions, all war in the history of human politics has been the result of self-rule and self-justification. We convince ourselves that we deserve to rule, that we know best, not God. We convince ourselves that our nation, our tribe, our race, our party, our person is somehow better and more right than the other nation, tribe, race, party, person. We justify these claims with all kinds of arguments, and so we do what it takes to rule over them. We go to war. Friend, insofar as you are still self-justifying, convinced that you are just and righteous on your own terms, you will continue to discriminate and judge and put down all those less righteous and less worthy, less human than you. Your self-rule is always grounded in your self-justification. Self-rule, which in relation to God we can call rebellion, is always grounded in self-justification. It's grounded in some kind of argument that convinces us, I deserve to rule, and self-rule, of course, will always dominate others to get its way. Our giving back to God the right to rule our lives only happens when all our self-justifying arguments come to an end and rely instead on God's justification and forgiveness. Oh, my rule has made a mess of things. I deserve punishment. Will you please forgive me and be the king in my life? So if our self-rule sits on the throne of our self-justification, we let God sit on the throne of our lives when we rely upon God's justification. And this is what creates a peaceful, life-giving, just political community. People don't realize how politically powerful the Christian gospel of justification is. It creates the ideal political community. It is only the person who knows he or she has been an enemy of God but has received a gracious pardon who can then turn and forgive other sinners and no longer lord it over them. It's only the person who knows their standing in the community wasn't earned but was given who can live at peace with others. The local church is an assembly of forgiven people, which means it's the strangest political society on earth, a place where enemies have learned to put down their swords and love one another. And do these enemies not come from all nations? These are excerpts from What Christians Should Do for Government, Be the Church Together, from the 9 Marks website. We need God's help. The best news in the world is that there is no conflict between our greatest possible happiness and God's perfect holiness. Being satisfied with all that God is for us in Jesus magnifies Him as the greatest treasure and brings us more joy, eternal infinite joy, than any other delight ever could. From the Desiring God website. Thanks for watching. Bye.